My wife divorced me by email while I was deployed overseas. She emptied our joint account and moved her new boyfriend into our house. I responded calmly, "Understood." When she realized what I had done, I was wiping blood from my forehead when the email came in. A single line in the preview shattered something inside me even before I tapped it open. "We're over. I've filed for divorce." My name is Daniel Reeve, 33 years old, serving in the U.S. Army as a communications tech stationed in Syria. I had just made it back to base after an ambush during a supply run. Two of my friends didn't. I was physically fine mostly. But the real wound came with that message. In that moment, with sand caked in my boots and smoke still rising in the distance, I opened the email fully. My wife, Emily, the same woman who cried endlessly at my deployment ceremony, who promised she'd wait no matter what, was now telling me it was over. No explanation, no empathy, just cold transactional words. And then the second punch. She had emptied our joint savings account. All of it, $73,200, years of saving, gone. I remember reading it again, slower this time, thinking maybe I misread something. Maybe this was some cruel joke, but it was real. She had already filed. Her tone was disturbingly calm, like she was emailing HR about a printer issue. She ended the message with, "I've moved on. Please don't contact me again. I need space." Moved on? I was 7,000 miles away. What kind of space did she need that crossed oceans? I didn't reply. Not immediately. I stared at the screen until the autolock kicked in. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness. It was something else. A quiet storm. Over the next 2 days, I barely spoke. I kept doing my job, eyes hollow, mind racing. Then one of the boys from my unit, Deshaun, pulled me aside. "You all right, Reeve? You look like you've seen hell." I smiled almost sincerely. Worse, I saw betrayal. On the third day, I finally wrote back. Just one word. "Understood." She didn't reply, but something told me she wouldn't care. Not yet. What she didn't know, though, was that I'd already started putting pieces together. I contacted my bank, requested a full activity report on the joint account. Transactions showed withdrawals starting 2 days after I left the country. Luxury shopping, hotel stays, restaurants in town, multiple charges with the same name, Marcus Fulton. And that name hit me like a sniper shot. Marcus wasn't just anyone. He was our neighbor, the guy who came by to help whenever something broke, the one who laughed too loud at Emily's jokes, the one she swore was just nice. So she didn't just replace me, she replaced me with him, while I was fighting for a country she clearly didn't respect enough to be faithful in. What stung the most wasn't even the betrayal. It was how fast it all happened. She hadn't just left me, she erased me from our life. The pictures were gone from her social media. My clothes, according to her email, were donated. Our dog, Jasper, she couldn't keep up with him, gave him away, all while I was risking my life on the front lines. But I didn't rage. I didn't break down. I got focused. There were things Emily didn't know, like the fact that I wasn't just a soldier, I was a systems guy. I had quietly built an entire tech security business with two Army buddies during our deployment downtime. We had clients, real ones, high-value ones. Our beta software just closed a funding round, and I never linked it to our joint finances. That account she drained, it was nothing compared to what was in the silent LLC account. So while she thought she destroyed me, I was preparing to change everything. 3 weeks later, I flew back, quietly, unannounced. I had a month of leave and no wife waiting, so I stayed with my younger sister, Lena. She greeted me with a hug that lasted too long. "You're not okay," she whispered. "No," I said, "but I will be." That night, Lena showed me something I didn't ask for, but needed to see. A video on Facebook, Emily, laughing, in our backyard, with Marcus. He was holding a BBQ tong like some proud suburban dad. The same deck I built with my bare hands. The same lights I strung up after midnight once to surprise her. Now they were under it, kissing, smiling, like I had never existed. But this wasn't sadness anymore. This was clarity. I started with the house. It was in my name. She must have forgotten that detail in her race to start her new life. So I made some quiet calls. No confrontation, just legal precision. 3 days later, she came home to a letter taped to the door. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cruel. It simply read, "You have 72 hours to vacate this property. This house has been legally reclaimed by the owner, Daniel Reeve." And that was only the beginning. Emily didn't believe it at first. She called me the moment she saw the letter. I let it ring. 5 times. Then voicemail. She called again. This time, I picked up. "What the?" Her voice cracked at the edges, half angry, half panicked. "Exactly what it says," I said calmly. "You have 72 hours. You can't do this. We lived there together for years. That's my home too." "No," I corrected her. "It's my home. You were a guest, and guests don't get to change the locks while the owner's away." She paused, the silence filled with Marcus's muffled voice in the background. I imagined him standing there, shirtless, suddenly not so comfortable anymore. "You're being cruel," she finally said, her voice quieter. "After everything we've been through?" "Cruel?" I said, almost laughing. "Emily, you ended our marriage over an email. You emptied our account. You gave away our dog. And you moved in the man who used to mow our lawn. You think I'm cruel?" Then I hung up. 3 hours later, her new man tried calling me. Marcus. I didn't pick up, but I saw the voicemail transcription. "Let's be men and talk this out." Sure, let's be men. Maybe he should have tried that before becoming a snake. The next day I went to the house. I didn't knock. The look on Emily's face when she opened the door was something I'll remember forever. Surprise, regret, and just a hint of fear. "You're actually here," she whispered. I stepped past her into the living room. It smelled different. Cheap cologne and someone else's body spray. The walls had changed too. My framed army medals were gone. In their place, a wall decal that said, "Good vibes only." How poetic. Marcus walked in from the hallway, wearing my hoodie. My hoodie. He raised his hand slightly like I was some wild animal. "Look, man, we didn't want it to go this way." "No," I replied. "Then maybe don't screw over a soldier mid-deployment." Emily jumped in. "Let's just talk about this, please. We made mistakes, but we don't deserve to be out on the street." I looked at her and said something I hadn't planned. It came out sharp and cold, but it felt right. "You don't deserve the life you stole either, but that didn't stop you." Then I handed her a folder. Inside was a full audit of the joint account activity. Every dollar she took, every charge tied to Marcus, and a printed copy of the lease termination notice. I had already filed it legally. She could fight it, sure, but she wouldn't win. As I turned to leave, I saw something strange in Marcus's eyes. He wasn't confident anymore. He looked trapped, like he just realized he bet on the wrong horse. I stopped at the door. "Oh," I said, turning around. "One more thing. That little tech startup I mentioned before?" Emily blinked. "Startup?" I smiled. "It just closed a 7-figure valuation. But don't worry, you're not listed on the paperwork. You emptied the wrong account." I walked out before either of them could respond, and that was the day the game flipped. Over the next few weeks, Emily tried everything. First, she played victim, posting vague messages on social media. "When people change, don't be surprised. Just grow." That sort of crap. Her followers, mostly mutuals we used to share, ate it up. Then came the apologies, late-night texts. "I messed up. I still care about you." I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I focused on my business. Me and my 2 army buddies, Chris and Jamal, were getting real traction. We landed a government contract, and just like that, life shifted. I had direction, I had purpose. Something she could never take. But then, just when things were settling, Lena called me one evening. "Dan, you need to come over. Now." There was panic in her voice. I drove fast, heart pounding, imagining the worst. Did something happen to her? Did Emily try something? When I got there, Lena handed me her phone. It was a message from Emily. "He hit me." My stomach twisted. "What?" I asked. Lena looked scared. "She sent me this 10 minutes ago. Said Marcus got angry after she lost her job. He threw a glass, cut her arm." I stood frozen. This was the woman who shattered me. The woman who betrayed every vow we ever took. But this was different. I called her. She picked up sobbing. I didn't know who else to tell. I know you hate me, but I didn't know where to go. I exhaled slowly. Emily, are you safe right now? She nodded through the phone. I locked myself in the bathroom. He left, I think. Okay, I'm coming. But not for us. For you. Understand? Silence. Then a quiet, yes. When I got there, she looked broken. There was a thin line of blood down her wrist, a shattered photo frame on the ground. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint. I took her to the hospital, said nothing the whole drive. Later at the ER, the nurse asked, relation to patient? Emily looked up at me. Her lips trembled. Before I could answer, she said, he's my ex-husband. And for the first time in months, it sounded like she regretted that. Emily was discharged the next morning with 6 stitches and a social worker's number she probably wouldn't call. She didn't ask to come with me. I didn't offer. But as she stood outside the hospital, arms wrapped around herself, eyes swollen from crying, something inside me shifted. I remembered the woman she used to be, not the one who emptied our account or betrayed me, but the one who once made late-night grilled cheese sandwiches when I came back from training half dead. The woman who used to rub my shoulders while reading out loud from terrible romance novels just to make me laugh. Do you have somewhere to go? I asked, not looking directly at her. She shook her head. He took the car, the one I bought, with your money. Her honesty caught me off guard. Get in, I said. We didn't talk on the way. Just silence and the hum of the road. I wasn't sure what I was doing. This wasn't pity. It wasn't love either. Maybe it was closure. Or maybe it was curiosity. She slept on the couch that night. I gave her a blanket, some Advil, and a bottle of water. By morning, she was gone. Just a sticky note on the fridge. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. I thought that was the end of it, until Lena showed up 3 days later, storming into my apartment like a hurricane. You're not going to believe what Emily did, she said, tossing her phone onto my counter. It was a video, a TikTok. Of course, Emily was sitting on a windowsill, dramatic music in the background, voiceover playing over slow zooms of her stitched arm. I betrayed him. He saved me anyway. Now I just want him back. My jaw clenched. The comments were flooded, some sympathetic, some brutal. Girl, let him live. You fumbled hard. He deserves someone who never needed to lose him to appreciate him. And then, a DM request from Marcus. You think you've won, but she always crawls back eventually. Watch your back, soldier. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then blocked him. That should have been the end. But karma had different plans. 2 weeks later, Lena and I were at a startup pitch night. She was helping me prep for a big investor meet. We were doing fine until a familiar face walked in. Emily. In heels I bought her, and worse, on the arm of one of the investors. I nearly choked on my water. She's with Joel Maynard? Lena hissed. Joel was one of the top 3 angels we were targeting for funding, a guy who could make or break our next stage. And now, Emily was holding his arm like she owned him. What the hell was going on? Emily made eye contact with me across the room, held the gaze, then smiled. The kind of smile that said, your move. And suddenly, I understood. She wasn't just regretful. She was strategic. She knew my company was growing. She knew who the big players were. And if she couldn't get back in through the heart, she'd try the bank account. That night, she cornered me near the restrooms. I didn't plan this, she said, brushing a curl behind her ear. Joel just likes my ideas. Right, I said flatly. And by ideas, you mean revenge. She leaned closer. Why are you so scared, Daniel? Afraid he might like me more than your pitch? Not scared, I said. Just disappointed. You really thought I'd let you use me twice? She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. Her silence told me everything. The next morning I made some calls, not to Joel, to people Joel listened to. Turns out being a soldier teaches you more than just how to survive war zones. It teaches you how to read people, how to plan ahead. And I had a plan. Emily had inserted herself into my world again, but this time I was ready. So I set the trap. At our next meeting, I asked Lena to invite Joel and Emily to a casual startup dinner. Nothing formal, just drinks, ideas, networking. Emily showed up in another dress I recognized. Joel was already tipsy, talking about vision and scaling with soul. She hung off his every word like a groupie in disguise. Halfway through dinner, I dropped the bomb. "So Joel," I said, casually stirring my drink, "you remember that lawsuit you settled in 19? The one about the IP breach?" His smile faltered for just a second. "Of course," he said carefully. "We cleared that." "Totally," I nodded. "It's just, I figured transparency is key, so I made sure our contracts are lawyer-proof, including NDAs. Non-circumvention." The works. Emily blinked. Joel stiffened. "What exactly are you implying?" Joel asked, eyes narrowing. "That if anyone tries to go around me to use my tech pitch, I'll sue them into retirement." The room went quiet. Emily's hand slowly slipped off Joel's shoulder. "And Joel?" He stood up, tossed his napkin on the table. "Appreciate the heads up," he muttered, then walked out. Emily stayed seated, red in the face. "You really think you're better than me now?" she whispered. "No," I said. "I know I am." And with that, Lena and I left. But that wasn't the last twist, not even close. Because that night, as we drove back, Lena suddenly said something that hit harder than I expected. "You know," she said quietly, "you keep fighting ghosts. But maybe it's time you noticed the person who never left." I turned to her. "What are you saying?" She didn't answer. She just reached out and for the first time, took my hand. And in that single moment, everything changed. The morning after Lena held my hand, everything felt different. Not in a fairy tale sparks flying kind of way, but in the quiet, unfamiliar calm after years of emotional chaos. I'd gotten so used to drama that peace felt almost suspicious. I didn't say anything to her, and neither did she. Maybe we were both just trying to process it in our own ways. Maybe she was giving me space to catch up to what she already knew. But peace didn't last. It never does. 3 days later, I got an email from a name I hadn't seen in a while. Subject: Legal notice, breach of verbal agreement sender, Emily Rhodes. I opened it, heart pounding. This letter serves as notification that you have failed to uphold an informal agreement made during the course of your marriage to Ms. Rhodes. It was 2 pages of garbage. Vague references to intellectual property conversations, shared life visions, and even some nonsense about emotional labor and co-founder rights. She was claiming I stole the idea for my startup from her, and she had audio clips from conversations we had while I was still stationed overseas, when I used to vent to her about my dreams, about building something that mattered, about creating a space for veterans to transition into civilian life through tech. She had recorded me. I couldn't breathe. I forwarded the email to my lawyer immediately, but the anxiety already wrapped around my chest like a vice. And that night, Emily did what she always did, escalated. She posted a video. Again. This time she wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She was calculated. He used me. He stole my ideas. Now he's pretending to be the hero. The views skyrocketed. Within 48 hours, my name was trending on Twitter with hashtags like Rakui Vet Tech Fraud and Justice for Emily. Investors started backing off. Emails went unanswered. 2 speaking gigs I was supposed to headline were postponed indefinitely. I was sinking, and she was enjoying every second. But what she didn't know, I'd already started recording my own story. Lena had insisted weeks earlier that I document everything: emails, texts, screenshots, voice notes. I didn't argue. I had learned, after all, that the people closest to you could flip without warning, and I had everything, including a very interesting message from Marcus, the ex, sent just before their breakup, where he said, "You think using his military sob story to get funding is going to save you? Good luck explaining that to the press." That one message, it was gold, because it proved something critical. Emily had been leveraging my deployment for sympathy and attention, even before she faked her redemption arc. We compiled everything, and then we went public. Lena produced the video herself. Simple lighting. Me looking straight into the camera. No drama, no theatrics, just facts. I walked people through the timeline. From the day she emailed me the divorce, to the stolen money, to her social media plays, to her recent lawsuit threat. Then I ended it with Marcus's message. I didn't ask for sympathy. I didn't beg people to pick sides. I just told the truth. The video hit 2 million views in a week. Comments flooded in. Bro waited and chose violence gracefully. Never trust a clout chaser with a podcast mic. She played checkers, he played 4D chess. Suddenly the tide turned. A major podcast invited me to speak. I said yes. The same investors who ghosted me? They came crawling back. Only this time, I set the terms. And Emily, she was silent for a week, until she made one last desperate move. A knock on my door. I opened it. There she was, pale, disheveled, no camera in sight. I need to talk, she said, barely above a whisper. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, she begged. It's not about money. It's not about followers. It's about us. I almost laughed. There is no us, Emily. I know, she said, but I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes to say what I never got to say when you came back from deployment. I stepped aside, let her in. She stood in the middle of my apartment, looking smaller than I remembered. I wasn't okay, she started. When you left, I thought I was, but I wasn't. And I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve another chance. But I'm scared. I lost everything. And Marcus, he's been blackmailing me for months. He's the one who pushed me to file that lawsuit. I thought if I could just drag you down, maybe someone would notice I was drowning. I stayed silent. I never stopped loving you, Daniel, she said, eyes glistening. Even when I left. Especially then. The room felt colder. Then why burn me to the ground? Because I didn't think you'd survive it, she whispered. But you did. And that? You'd survive it, she whispered. But you did. And that made me hate you more. You were always stronger, even when I was weak. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. You're right, I said. I did survive. And now, I don't need to carry your guilt anymore. She nodded slowly, tears falling freely. I just wanted you to know. Then she walked out. For good this time. And as the door clicked shut behind her, I didn't feel anger. I felt free. But the real surprise came a week later. Lena burst into my apartment with a folder in her hand and the biggest grin I'd ever seen. You're going to want to sit down, she said. What is it? She opened the folder. Inside was a legal document, a cease and desist order for Marcus, sent by Emily, with a note scribbled on top. One last thing, I owed you this. I blinked. She took him down? I asked. Lena nodded. Turns out, even fallen queens can still flip the board. Weeks passed. Life finally started to feel still. Not perfect, not wrapped in some Hollywood bow, but real. Quiet mornings, emails from new clients, an inbox full of good chaos. Lena had moved in, not with a big dramatic announcement, just slowly, piece by piece. A toothbrush here, a coffee mug there. One day I realized her favorite blanket was already on my couch, and it just made sense. But peace has a funny way of testing you. It was late evening when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Then, a voicemail. I listened, and suddenly I wasn't breathing. Daniel, it's me. Marcus. We need to talk. Before you do something stupid. There are things you don't know. Things about Emily. About Lena. The blood in my body felt like ice. I immediately called Lena. She didn't pick up. Called again. Voicemail. I sat frozen, staring at the wall, a million thoughts racing. Was Marcus bluffing? Was this just another trap? Then the text came. Meet me, Old Park, midnight. Come alone. I didn't know why, but I went. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I just wanted to look into the eyes of the man who tried to break me. He was already there when I arrived, sitting on the bench like he didn't just blow up my entire past life. You came, he said. Talk. He lit a cigarette, hands shaking slightly. You think Emily was the mastermind? She wasn't, not alone. Someone fed her every detail of your business, your passwords, your plans, everything. What are you saying? I'm saying, he exhaled slowly, your girl Lena, she's not who you think she is. I laughed, loud, dry, almost unhinged. Desperate much? I'm serious, he growled. She played me too. Got close just to figure out what Emily and I were planning, then turned on both of us. That folder she handed you? The one with the legal documents? I nodded. She doctored half of it. She wanted you to see her as the savior, to hate Emily, and most of all, to need her. My fists clenched. You're lying. I wish I was. But you know what hurts more than betrayal, Daniel? He leaned in, face inches from mine. Being manipulated so gently, you don't even realize you're being used. Then he got up and walked away. No final twist, no punchline. I stood there for a long time, not moving, not blinking. When I got home, Lena was there, curled up on the couch, smiling. Hey, where'd you go? She asked casually. I stared at her, really stared, the way her eyes avoided mine, the sudden stiffness in her shoulders. Lena, I said softly, how long were you following Emily and Marcus before you accidentally found me? Her expression cracked, just for a second. Then she smiled again, that perfect, warm smile I had fallen for. I don't know what you mean. I sat beside her, heart pounding. Were you in love with me, Lena? Or just obsessed with saving someone broken? Silence. For a moment she looked like she might lie again, might spin another version of the truth I wanted to hear. But then she broke. I just wanted to be needed, she whispered. I saw you, Daniel. You were drowning. And I wanted to matter to someone, to feel like I wasn't invisible anymore. You could have told me. You wouldn't have let me in. She was right. I wouldn't have. I got up, pacing. And all this? The folder? The legal tricks? You played both sides. I protected you. You controlled me. Tears welled in her eyes. So what now? She whispered. I paused, then looked her in the eye. You leave. Tonight. She didn't argue. She packed silently. No yelling, no drama. Just one look at the door before she stepped out. The same door Emily once walked out of. I was alone again. But this time, I chose it. And something about that felt powerful. In the months that followed, my startup thrived. The noise faded. People moved on. New stories came up in the algorithm. Fame is fickle like that. But I stayed low, focused, healed, until one night, 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No sender, just a short note inside. They both tried to destroy you, and still. To destroy you, and still. You stood. That's rare. Don't let them win by becoming like them. No signature. But tucked inside was a tiny USB. I plugged it into my laptop, hesitation flooding my gut. One folder, one video. I clicked play. It was Emily, sitting in a therapy session, voice soft, eyes tired. I ruined the best thing I ever had, not because I didn't love him, but because I loved myself too little. This is my confession, and maybe my redemption. The screen went black. For a long time, I didn't move, just sat there, letting it sink in. In the end, everyone was broken. Some just broke quieter than others. I closed the laptop, then stepped outside into the night. The air was cold, sharp, real, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing weighing me down. No anger, no guilt, just clarity. The war was over, and I was finally free. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And if you've ever faced betrayal or unexpected twists, let us know in the comments how you overcame it. Stay tuned for more emotional journeys like this one.